Hello, this is Henry the Computer Guy, and you are most welcome to our 8th video about databases. Actually, in this video, we are going to be learning how to create relationships in Microsoft Access. In fact, for all along, we've been working with a database that has only one table, and that's what we call a flat file database. So in this video, we are going to be working with a database that has more than one table, and it is the one that we call a relational database. That means that in a relational database, the data in one table is always related to the data in other tables. So what we are going to do is to have a question that has two tables so that we can use it to create and understand our relationships. And down here, I've designed a question that we are going to be following, and it is telling us that we are going to be designing a database called university, and in it we will put two tables, that is the students table and the course table, and give them appropriate data types. Thereafter, we'll have to populate them with the data as shown below. We'll also create forms that will be used for entering more data into our tables. And we are also going to be creating a relationship enforcing referential integrity. And lastly, we will create some queries that are based on the relationship that we have created. So without wasting any time, let's open our database and begin right away. So I'll come and open my database, and having opened it, I'm going to be creating a blank database. I'll click on the option that says blank, then give it a name. Of course, they have told us that we name it as university database. And I'll have to browse where I have to save my database. Now down here, they're showing me that it is going to be saved under the document. So I want it onto my desktop. So I'll come and click on the option that says browse. Then I'll come and select my desktop. Then I'll say OK. And having clicked OK, I'll come onto the option that says create. And having created my database, by default, they will give me one table, the one you're seeing here, and it's the one that we are going to begin with. Remember, our question is requiring us to create a database with two tables. The students table is the one we are going to begin with, then go to the course table. But as you study the table, we have fields here. For example, we have the student's ID. This is going to be having a data type as text. We have the names, that is also text. We have the date of birth. This is going to be date stroke time. We have the sex. This is text. We can also use a lookup wizard. Then this is campus, also text. This is course ID, also text, because it is a mixture of numbers and letters. So now when we come to table 2, we also have the course ID, which is going to be the text, the course name, which is going to be the text, the tuition, which is going to be the currency, and the tutor, which is going to be the text. But in each of these tables, we have a primary keys. What is a primary key? A primary key is a key that uniquely identifies the records in a table. And when you come to the students table, we have the primary key as the student's ID. So our primary key in the students table will be the student ID. And our primary key in the course table will be the course ID. But as you look at the students table here, we have what we call the course ID again. So now when you find that you have a primary key into another table as the field there, it is always called a foreign key. What is a foreign key? It is simply a field or fields in one table that reference the primary key in another table. So now when you look at here, we have it as a primary key. So when it comes here, it becomes a foreign key. So this is the table that we are going to be using. Let's create those two tables. So I'll come to the option that says view, and having clicked on view, I'm going to be selecting the design view. So after selecting the design view, I will give it a name. Of course, this is going to be the students table. Students table. And after that, we will click on the option that says OK. And we are going to be putting our field names the way we have looked at them into our tables. Then we will give them appropriate data types. Remember, we said the primary key is the one here, and we are going to be putting the student ID. Student ID. Then we give it an appropriate data type that is going to be the text because it is a combination of characters. So we are going to be picking the short text. Then we come to this option. Second, we say we give it a name. Of course, this is supposed to be text. Then we come to this one, which is going to be the date of birth, which is going to be the date of birth. Of course, this is supposed to be date stroke time. We'll come and select our date stroke time. But remember, when you look at our dates, have to appear in this format. So we have to change that format. I'm going to come back and change the format by coming to the field properties. Then I'll come and put DD to represent the day. Then I'll put my stroke, the MM for month, then YY for the year. Then I'll come to the next field, which is going to be the sex. And after putting that, of course, this is in text, but we said they can also choose what we call the lookup wizard, whereby someone can select from the options available. Then we come to another one, which is the campus, Of course, this is going to be the text. Then lastly, I will pick the course ID. And of course, this is also the short text. So this is our table 1. Let's create the second table by coming to the option that says create. And having clicked on create, we come and select the option that says table. We want to create our course table. Of course, I'm going to come to the option that says view. I will come to the design view and give it a name as course table. Then I'll come and click on the option that says okay. Then when we come here, of course, we have to put the primary key here, which is going to be the course ID. We're going to name it the course ID. Then we give it the appropriate data type. It was a short text. Then we come to the second, which is the course name, and also this is going to be the short text. We pick tuition fees. This is going to be currency because we are going to be dealing with monetary values. And when we look at our table here, this money is fixed. So we'll come and pick the format down here. Then we come and select it as the fixed, but we don't have the decimal places there. So we put it to 0 or none. Then lastly, we put our tutor. Of course, this is a name and supposed to be in short text. So this is what exactly we had to put under the design view. So let's go back and click on the option that says datasheet view. This is where we will be entering our data from. Let's also come to the students table, come on to view, then datasheet view. We also save the table. So we are going to be entering our data from here. But before we enter the data, let's first create our forms. I'm going to come to the option that says create and come to the option that says form wizard. Then come and select the table I want to begin with. For example, the students table, I'll come and select the fields I want to appear onto my form. Then I'll come and say okay. Then I can choose any layout from these available. Let me leave it on columnar. Then I'll come and say next. I'll give it a title. For example, it's going to be the students form. Then I'll come and click finish. So having clicked finish, this is going to be our students form. So we will be using this form to enter the data into our table. Then we come and create another one for the course, which is going to be create again. We come and choose the form wizard. Then we come and select these fields to appear on our form. Then I'll come and leave it on column again and come to next. I'll give it a title, which is again going to be the course form. Then after, I'll click onto the finish. If at all you don't know how we've been doing this, of course, you can visit my channel, check for the first videos we created earlier. Then we have now created our two tables and we've created our two forms. So what I'm going to do is to pause this video and populate our tables with the data they told us to put there. For example, when you look at this, we are going to be entering this data into our tables. Okay, having populated all our tables with the data they gave us, we are going to be taking a second to look at how that data looks like. So what we are going to do is to come to our tables. Let me say I'm going to double click the course table, and this is the information that we've managed to enter there. When I come to the students table, this is also the information I've managed to enter here. And this is the information we are actually going to use to create our relationship. But whenever you want to create a relationship, you have to always come to your tabs, select that tab that is called the database tools, and come to the option that says relationship. But before you create it, all your tables have to be closed. So what I'm going to do first is to close my tables, then I can be able to create my relationship. But before we do any relationship, we first of all have to get an understanding of what database relationships are. And if I'm to answer this, a database relationship is an association between tables that are created using join statements to retrieve data. Therefore, a relationship is used to cross-reference information between tables. Let's say you have some information you want to get from your table, that is the course table and the students table, using a query. You cannot do that unless you first create what we call a relationship. In other words, a relationship helps you to combine data from different tables. So in this video, we're going to be looking at some three examples of relationships. That is the one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, and the many-to-many relationship. So let's have an understanding of these three relationships, and I'm going to begin by explaining a one-to-one relationship. If, for example, we have two tables, let's say table A and table B, under this one-to-one relationship, one element of table A may only be linked to one element of table B, and vice versa. If I'm to give you an example of, let's say, a family and a house, one family lives in one house, and the house only contains one family. That is an example of a one-to-one relationship. If I'm to give you another example of, let's say, a person and a passport, one person has one passport, and let's say the passport can only be used by one person. That is a one-to-one relationship also. And lastly, I can also talk about a person and an ID number, whereby one person has an ID number and the ID number is only unique to that one person. So that is also an example of a one-to-one relationship. So if I'm to talk about, let's say, a one-to-many relationship, this is the most commonly used type of relationship. And if I'm also having, let's say, table A and table B, in this relationship, an element of table A may be linked to many elements of table B, but a member of table B is only linked to one element of table A. If I'm to give you an example of this also, we can think of, let's say, having a book and the pages. Let's say one book having multiple pages and all those pages belonging to that one book. Or let's say one customer may make several purchases, but each purchase is made by a single customer. That is also an example of a one-to-many relationship. And remember, our example is going to be based on this one-to-many relationship. Then we'll be able to enforce our referential integrity. So lastly, let me talk about what we call the many-to-many relationship. And if at all I'm using, let's say, table A and table B, under this relationship, more than one element or more than one record of table A may be related to more than one element or member of table B. So for example, let's say if you're having customers and products, for example, many customers can purchase various products and products can be purchased by many customers. So those are the three types of relationship, and we are going to be doing this practically to see how we can work with it. So first of all, what we said, we come to the database tools, and having come to the database tools, we come to the option that says relationship. So for our case, we are going to be dealing with what we call the one-to-many relationship, and we'll have to enforce referential integrity. What does referential integrity mean? We are going to be looking at it also. So I'm going to be selecting the option that says relationship. And after selecting it, remember we only had two tables, that is the course table and the students table. And they're telling us that we are having this table, we have to add them to the working area. So whenever you want to add a table to the working area, you just come and double click onto that table. For example, I want to add my course table. I'm going to come and double click onto that table. Then it is here. I'll also do the same for the students table by double clicking on it. And these are the two tables we are going to be using to create our relationship. How can we create a relationship? So we are going to be dragging one field of a table and drag it and drop it onto another field of another table. But for our case, remember we said we have to base on what we call a one-to-many relationship. But we can as well try it with a one-to-one relationship and see. For example, I'm going to hold the course ID and drag it and drop it onto the student's ID. When I come here, you're seeing that down here they're indicating that this one is a one-to-one relationship. It only has one counterpart in another table. And up here, they're telling you that you have the course table, you have the students table. Whenever you make a mistake, you can always come and edit the fields from here. Even this side, you can always come and edit the fields from here. So that is how you can create that one-to-one relationship. But for our case, we are going to be dealing with a one-to-many relationship. So let me hold my primary key and put it onto the foreign key of this table. Remember, this course ID is now a foreign key here because it was a primary key here. So when it comes here, it becomes a foreign key. And it's the one that we are going to be using. Remember, they told us that we have to enforce referential integrity. And for you to enforce referential integrity, these data types of these two fields have to be the same, and the data in has to be the same. So I'm going to be choosing the course ID and the course ID because they have the same data types and they have similar data. So I'm going to be dropping it onto the course ID. And having dropped it there, they are telling us that here we have the course ID from the course table and we have the course ID from the students table. And it's the one that we are going to be using. But down here, they are telling us that we can also enforce what we call referential integrity. What does that one mean? The purpose of using referential integrity is to prevent orphan records and keep references synchronized so that you do not have to always reference records that do not exist. For example, you might always have a valid need to either edit or delete some information from one side of a relationship. And when you do that, this referential integrity has two options. It can allow us to add, for example, this information can be updated at once, and this information can always be deleted at once. Whenever you have, let's say, some references from this table connecting to references to this table, when you delete them, they will delete that information at once, and they will also update that information at once. That is what we call the referential integrity. And you cannot always use this referential integrity when the data types of this field and this field you're going to use in your relationship are not the same. So it cannot work at all. So for our case, I remember that information was the same. So we can click on the option that says create. Having enforced our integrity, and our relationship here is also a one-to-many relationship. So let's click on the option that says create. And after creating that relationship, they're telling us that our relationship is now done. We have a one-to-many relationship. So that is how you can create a one-to-many relationship. Now you can use this relationship you have created to obtain data from both your tables. Let's create one query, for example, and see how we can work with this. Let me close this relationship and I will come and save it. And having saved it, I can come and create my queries the way I feel I want. For example, I want to get some data from the course table and the students table at once. I'll create that when it is possible because I've already made my relationship. So I'll come to create and I will come to my query. For example, I'll use the query wizard. Then it is going to be a simple query. Then I'll come and select the fields, for example, from the course table. Let me begin by the students table. If I'm to come to the students table, I will come, let's say, get the student's ID, get the name of the student, the date of birth. I can get the, let's say, the sex, the campus. I can get all of them the way I feel I want. Then in this other second table, I will come back and choose that table. I can get the course ID. Let me get the course ID. Yeah, I'll get the course ID. I'll get the course name, fees, and the tutor. So that means that I've combined the information from two tables. So that is possible because I have already created a relationship. So I will come and say next. Then I will come and say it is going to be a detail. I can give it a name, for example. I can call it, let's say, let's say summary. I can call it my summary. I can call it summary. It depends on any name that you feel you want to give to your query. Let me say just preview the information. I will not add any modification here. I'll just come and finish. So when you click finish, it is going to get that information from all the two tables and display it for you. So that is the main reason as to why we have been creating the relationship. It helps us to obtain or combine data from the different tables. So it's been Henry the Computer Guy, and if at all you're new to my channel, please don't forget to click the subscribe button and click the notification bell to always be notified when a new video has been uploaded. Bye bye, I sign out.